We're driven by the search for better. But when it comes to hiring, the best way to search for a candidate isn't to search at all. Don't search, match with Indeed. Indeed is your matching and hiring platform with over 350 million global monthly visitors, according to Indeed data, and a matching engine that helps you find quality candidates fast. Ditch the busy work. Use Indeed for scheduling, screening, and messaging so you can connect with candidates faster. Leveraging over 140 million qualifications and preferences every day, Indeed's matching engine is constantly learning from your preferences, so the more you use Indeed, the better it gets. Join more than 3.5 million businesses worldwide that use Indeed to hire great talent fast. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/Blue Wire. Just go to Indeed.com/Blue Wire right now and support our show by saying that you heard about Indeed on this podcast. That's Indeed.com/Blue Wire. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? You need Indeed.
The 1-2 pitch, ball lined to Yount, it's short, he throws, it's over! The Brewers have won the American League pennant! Milwaukee, you have a World Series!
Hit in the air, Yount makes a great catch, and Juan Nieves has thrown the first no-hitter in Milwaukee Brewer history!
Swings, and there it is! A base hit in the right center! He's done it! 3,000 for Robin.
And there's a drive in the left field. This is hit well. And it's gone! Robin Braun! A two-run home run! The Brewers take the lead!
Morgan, a smash up the middle. Base hit to center. Here comes Gomez. Around third. A throw and the Brewers win. The Brewers are moving on a base hit by Nigel Morgan. Here it is. Yelich sends one to right center and deep. Get up. Get up. Get out of here and gone for Yelich.
You're cruising for a Brewsing with me, Andrew Snyder.
And me, Adam McGee.
As we talk all things Milwaukee Brewers for the Eurostep Podcast Network and Blue Wire Podcast. Adam, it's good to see you. I've been kind of in a media darkness for the last several hours or so. Actually, it's going to be announced tomorrow that I actually am on the executive board of the MLB Umpires Union now. So I went phone off and just focused on the onboarding and training videos. So not sure, what I've missed, but happy to do this podcast with you. And how you doing, buddy?
I'm pissed off. I'm really pissed off. You're cracking a beer. I think that's a good decision. I think that's well earned. I don't know. Do we do a lot of complaining on this podcast? I generally don't think we do. Certainly not this season. The Brewers haven't given us too much to complain about. We're going to complain. We're going to complain this one. And we're not complaining about the Brewers. I also don't feel we are, let's whine about officiating kind of people. Yeah, a lot of them are bad. It's also just, it happens. It's part of the game. But what we saw, Andrew, what we saw with our own eyes in Game 3 of this Brewers Yankees series, it's going to take some time to forget it. Truly, truly jaw-dropping ineptitude. Something that is so clear-cut. I don't believe I had ever seen an instance like that. I don't know if you have or you have examples to mind, but even what the punishment should have been doesn't seem strong enough, in my opinion. But we can get to all of that when we get there. But yeah, I mean, to set it up coming in, I'm pissed off. The Brewers was daylight robbery, and then a game that ultimately, will that seem silly with the final score? It may. But if you suffered through all of the game like we did, you'll know it to be true.
Yeah, it's a good thing that you set that up because there will be a lot of complaining and yelling in the middle of this podcast, or towards the end of this podcast, I guess. We usually like to reserve harsh, strong language and a combative nature to our comments when it's something like public funds for a stadium or an executive making a fool of themselves in a very public way. MLB robbing the A's from Oakland and then shipping them to Sacramento and then eventually Vegas. Maybe that's what we usually save up our vitriol for. But in this case, this is such a "what are we doing here" moment in this game that it's naturally going to cause us to have some anger. And unfortunately, Adam, it's going to start with sadness rather than anger. We have to work our way backwards through all the
Oh,
different emotions
Jesus. I
that
wasn't even thinking
we
about
have.
this. I was so
Yeah,
angry. I wasn't even thinking about the stuff we have to talk about.
yeah. First thing we have to talk about is it was the worst news possible for Wade Miley. He's going to miss the rest of the season with a UCL tear. He's going to have Tommy John surgery. He says he wants to attempt his rehab and go through that process before he decides that this is going to be what makes him call it a career. But with his age, as you and I well know, as men in their 30s, Adam, it's going to be a tough road back for Wade. And you just hate to see a guy who had such a just strong career as a journeyman, and then especially post Brewers kind of late peak as a starting pitcher. It's tough to see, and just hate it for Wade. So it started the weekend off on a sour note, and then everything else happened.
Brutal news for Wade Miley. I would be stunned if he manages to come back from this, but I think he's right to approach it from a point of view of, well, let's rehab as if I am going to come back and pitch. I just even think for your long term, health in that arm, that's probably a good way to go about it. Let's get this arm to a place where it should be strong enough for me to be a professional pitcher. And if I decide, well, actually, I'm not going to do that anymore, well, I'll be in a good place to just go about my day-to-day life. It's a brutal blow for the Brewers as well. I mean, we didn't necessarily expect good news here, but this is a guy coming into the season. We talked quite a lot about just how crucial Miley was going to be, in light of Corbin Burns being traded, in light of Brandon Woodruff being out for the season. He was the guy that they were going to need for support, who would have some experience. I think it's notable that Miley himself has spoken about wanting to. Maybe this is just a bigger part of anything. He wants to do his rehab and be around the clubhouse and be able to help the team, to help these guys. I think they'll still need it in that regard. Would have been even better to have Wade Miley, the pitcher, out there, because we've seen some of the ways in which the Brewers have had to patch things together up until this point. And when you're losing a pitcher of Miley's caliber for the whole season at this stage in the season, it's not going to get any easier. There are going to be more injuries as the year goes on. That's the nature of baseball. So to lose Miley already, that's a really, really bitter pill to swallow for the Brewers.
Yeah, when you sign Wade Miley to bring him back at this point in his career, you account for injury management and him not being in your rotation for stretches at a time, but you don't really account for him being gone completely. But obviously, we know what pitching is, and we know that this is pretty much possible with any guy in any rotation throughout baseball. Pitchers break eventually. Sometimes you can predict it with usage and wear and tear and things of that nature, and sometimes it just happens. Obviously, Wade Miley would probably be in the wear and tear department, as he has had a long and successful career. I guess elsewhere on injury watch, we can talk about Christian Yelich, as Pat Murphy today said that Yelich just started swinging a bat a few days ago, and his progress with the back stalled a bit. And this quote directly was, "I think within a week we'll be in a better spot." So an update to a degree, but still a little more time on seeing what Yelich's return date looks like. Obviously, would love to get him back in the lineup, even if Yelly being in the lineup could not have saved the no good, very bad day from the umpires today. But a little bit more thump in the middle of that order and just lengthening that lineup is something the Brewers could sure use as they come up with a pretty interesting stretch coming up in the schedule. We'll talk about that later. We got the Rays, who have kind of been scuffling next, and then you have that first meeting of the season with the Chicago Cubs, who unfortunately are playing pretty well. So Would love to get Yelich back, but still a waiting game.
I mean, there is one other injury update, which is, I guess, worth sharing. Which is just the continued woes of second opinions for the Brewers this year. So it was only middle of the week, I think. Kurt Hogue had tweeted out about. I'll quote it. Caught up with JB Bukowskis, who's fairly relieved it's a tricep strain rather than the shoulder injury he thought it was at first. Said full range of motion is back in his arm and he will resume a throwing program, quote unquote, soon. Unfortunately, on Friday, Jack Stern followed up with some quotes from Pat Murphy. Pat Murphy says there's a chance JB Bukowskis gets moved to the 60-day IL after getting a second opinion. There's concern about the tricep lap becoming a long-term issue, so they're being cautious with it. So, yeah, again, another tough break on a pitcher who could have just factored into the wider mix here. And when you look at, pitchers who are missing, have been missing, Bukowskis, Clark, Gasser, DL Hall, Jacob Junis, Wade Miley, Devin Williams, Brandon Woodruff. You've got quite the guts of a pretty impressive pitching staff in those names alone. And that's what the Brewers are doing without, have done without. Robert Gasser is the only name on that list that it seems like is probably very close. Has obviously returned to pitching this week with the Nashville Sounds. But yeah, we'll see just if the Brewers look can get any better when it comes to these pitching injuries.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of debate about this amongst fans and some speculation in terms of the rotation. I think for the foreseeable future, they'll go with internal options and Gasser being obviously the next man up. But if we get to July and they're still in the race and they're still patching things together, but they're looking like a team that can get to the playoffs and make noise, I wonder if we see them active on the trade market and acquire a middle of the rotation guy in like the pitcher version of like a Santana type of player. I do not have a sense of what the trade market looks like right now. I just saw the other day that Jesus Luzardo for the Marlins, who would be the top name on everyone's list of, if the Marlins fire sale, let's be the first one to call. I think he's got an injury now, and obviously you don't want to go acquiring players that are also already damaged goods. But yeah, I think that's a conversation we'll have later in the season. I was trying to rack my brain for who are free agents that are still out there I haven't signed. The only one that really sprung in my mind is Noah Syndergaard, but I might be forgetting someone, and it's very well possible that Syndergaard is just cooked at this point.
They may need to do something just to replenish their options. Even if it works out internally, I think what was the security they may have had at the start of the season is now kind of the plan A at this point. So I don't know, unless you've got multiple guys who can make the leap or can kind of figure stuff out, and some of your prospects who've had tougher starts can steady the ship and show that they're actually ready this year. You can maybe have some more Tobias Myers-esque stories. I think you're going to need to add from the outside to just shore up the numbers. If anything else, ideally you get someone who is a proven kind of mid-rotation starter. But even beyond that, I just think they're going to need arms.
They are definitely going to need arms. Adam, I guess we have to do it. You and I are busy guys with busy schedules, so let's recap these games. Join me.
Let's do it, Andrew.
Colin Ray on the mound against Luis Hill in Game 1 on Friday night at American Family Field. The game of baseball, we love it. Yankees strike first. Juan Soto, after Colin Ray would get Ante Volpe out, Juan Soto hits a solo homer to left center in the top of the first. In the second, without a runner on, Alex Verdugo adds a homer of his own to make it 2-0. And then in the second, the Brewers finally get into the mix and start to come back in this baseball game. Best series of the season for Joey Ortiz. We will talk about that a little bit later. And he started it off in the second inning of this game by hitting his first homer as a Brewer, 406 feet, scoring himself and Bryce Terang, who had reached base before, makes that a 2-2 game. With Rhys Hoskins on base in the third, Blake Perkins against his former organization hammers a home run of his own, makes it 4-2 Brewers. Then in the fourth, old friend Trent Grisham comes to the plate and hits a homer to right to score 3 runs, makes it 5-4. Colin Ray, to his credit, still worked deep into the game, even though he allowed the 3 homers, 6 innings pitched, 4 hits, 5 runs. They were all earned, 3 walks. Not as sharp as effort. Definitely not as good as he had been performing thus far, but still, just shows you I mean, this was not a good performance, but I think it still shows you the leap of what Colin Ray can give you compared to what he did last year, and that he's pitching into the 6th inning, even though things aren't working, and you're allowed to save the A bullpen to a degree and not have everyone burned out by the end of the series. Although what would really help save the bullpen by the end of the series is the Brewers getting absolutely mashed in 2 games. But yeah, I mean, I don't want to act like this was a good performance, but for some reason, I just find myself drawn to praising Colin Ray, even when he's not at his best.
We're driven by the search for better. But when it comes to hiring, the best way to search for a candidate isn't to search at all. Don't search, match with Indeed. Indeed is your matching and hiring platform with over 350 million global monthly visitors, according to Indeed data, and a matching engine that helps you find quality candidates fast. Ditch the busy work. Use Indeed for scheduling, screening, and messaging so you can connect with candidates faster. Leveraging over 140 million qualifications and preferences every day, Indeed's matching engine is constantly learning from your preferences, so the more you use Indeed, the better it gets. Join more than 3.5 million businesses worldwide that use Indeed to hire great talent fast. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/Blue Wire. Just go to Indeed.com/Blue Wire right now and support our show by saying that you heard about Indeed on this podcast. That's Indeed.com/Blue Wire. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? You need Indeed. Football season may be over, but the action on the floor is heating up. Whether it's tournament season or the fight for the playoff home court, there's no shortage of high-stakes basketball moments this time of year. Get in on the excitement with Prize Picks, America's #1 fantasy sports app, where you can turn your hoops knowledge into serious cash. You can now win up to 100 times your money on Prize Picks with as little as 4 correct picks. You can turn $10 into $1,000 with NBA, NHL, and college basketball entries today on Prize Picks. Prize Picks even offers injury insurance so that your entries stay in play even if one of your players gets injured. So for basketball games, this means if you have a player who exits the game in the first half and doesn't return in the second, that player projection won't count against you and the rest of your entry stays live. Download the app today and use the code BLUEWIRE for a first deposit match up to $100. That code is BLUEWIRE for a first deposit match of up to $100. Prize Picks. Pick more, pick less. It's that easy.
That's I think reasonable. And we've talked about this quite a lot with this team, and again with the pitching situation, and as injuries continue to pile up. You know, what's your initial goal when you go out there? It's to give up as few runs as possible and go as deep into the game. But then as that evolves and the game goes on and you are having a game where you're giving up quite a few runs, then it becomes, okay, how can I kind of lock this down, keep us in the game, and go as deep as possible? And it is a real progression in terms of his consistency to be a guy who can go 6 innings. And for it to be more and more routine that we're not really seeing him, it's not a worry that he's going to be way below 4 or way below 5 anymore. He's 5+, and even I trust him more and more to get to 6. And ultimately, what did he do here? Well, he pitched the game that he was in, where you're going up against a pitcher on the other side who is giving up runs too, and then you give your team a chance to seal the deal from there. So it's not his best by any means. I don't think you're really stretching too far to be like, yeah, well, there's some real positives here. I think if any Brewers pitcher who gives them 6 innings and leaves the game with the team right in with a chance to win has done their job. And it's a different it's a different mindset for us than what we were used to with Corbin Burns and Brandon Woodruff. But I do think that's what the season is.
We need a new evolution of the Colin Ray special for when if he had gone like 7 and given up 5 runs, like it's either 5 innings gives up 2 or fewer, or 7 gives up like 4 or 5. Those are the two Colin Ray specials. But the Brewers would not be done in this baseball game. In the bottom of the 6th, Luis Gil still pitching. Gary Sanchez doubles to left. The Yankees then go to the bullpen. Bryce Terang, ground ball to the right side, gets Sanchez to third, and then Joey Ortiz, a sac fly, makes it 5-5 in the bottom of the 6th. Hobie Milner comes on, provides a scoreless inning in the 7th. Nothing doing for the Brewers, excuse me, in the bottom of the 7th. Milner gets the first batter of the inning in the 8th, but it would be a Juan Soto single that leads to Elvis Peguero coming in, gets an Aaron Judge double play, and strikes out Anthony Rizzo. Nothing for the Brewers in the bottom of the 8th. Brian Hudson provides a scoreless top of the 9th. And then into the bottom of the 9th, Clay Holmes comes on for the Yankees and gets us 2 extra innings. Jared Koenig on the mound for the Brewers. First batter of the inning was Giancarlo Stanton. He would double to left to score. Jose Trevino puts the Yankees up 6-5. Credit to Koenig, would get out of the inning without allowing any other damage. In the bottom of the 8th, the Brewers tie it up immediately. Willy Adames' single to center scores William Contreras. That makes it 6-6. Unfortunately, unable to do anything else in that inning. Jared Koenig stays in the game to pitch the second inning of Manfred Ball. Gets through the 11th without allowing another run. In the bottom of the 11th, after a Bryce Terang flyout gets zombie runner Owen Miller to third, Joey Ortiz hits a walk-off single to left field, scores Owen Miller. Brewers win 7-6, and then Joey Ortiz, absolutely mobbed by his teammates, ripped his shirt off. Just all the elation and excitement that we would not have in the later 2 games of the series.
Sure, it doesn't take a lot to rip these Fanatics jerseys.
Yeah, it's much different than last year.
There wasn't a whole lot going on there in terms of, like, it should have held up. You would expect any self-respecting material, Andrew, to hold up, but no, it's a shambles. It's been documented in many other ways already, and yeah, it was such a problem that Joey Ortiz had to do his post-game interview with Sophia Minnaert wearing Willy Adames' jersey, which of course Willie made sure very quickly that it was drenched in Gatorade.
He sure did. We'll talk about Joey Ortiz again later. We'll talk about him right now. He had 4 walks in today's game, so a great series for Ortiz. At this point in his season, he's got, if I'm doing my math here correctly, an 808 OPS. I don't have live to the minute updated stats because the last game just went final. But I think people were concerned initially when the trade was reported because of a small sample size that Joey Ortiz had as a big leaguer in Baltimore, and now he's, I think, more than doubled up on his plate appearances in that snippet in his rookie, or his first rookie go around. And he looks like a big leaguer. He looks like a guy that can be an above average regular on this team. We know what he can do with the glove. We would assume that he is the long-term successor to Willy Adames at shortstop moving forward. And just wanted to shout him out in a series where, game 1 was the Joey Ortiz game.
Yeah, I mean, great to see him really kind of have a series like this where it all kind of clicks into place and with the bat. But 4-walk game is maybe even most deserving of praise, because that's just telling us something about him too. So to have all of that in the one series, to have his first big league homer, to have the walk-off, to have a 4-walk game, 2 doubles in game 2. I mean, that really is as complete a series as you can have as a hitter.
Moving on to game 2 of the series. Burn the tapes. Burn the tapes. Don't want to see this game ever again. We're going to one-up ourselves in terms of terrible games because of context in a moment. But this was one to forget. Mea culpa, hand up. I'd commented about how good I felt about Joe Ross after the last start, and he responded with a bad start, and that's my fault. It's my fault, and I'm going to take full responsibility for jinxing Joe Ross. Um, the Brewers would go
I
behind.
I think you're
Go ahead.
being there's not that much difference between the Colin Ray start that you were just praising and the Joe Ross start. The difference is who was on the mound for the Yankees and what did the game look like when they left the game. And Joe Ross ultimately left the Brewers in a very bad spot. Um, but
One
look,
fewer inning and like 16 more
I
pitches. So
know.
like he was
I'm not
laboring.
saying it's the same. I'm not, but it's Joe Ross is still who I think Joe Ross is, and I'm sure that we'll have starts like this, and I'm sure we'll have good starts. Like it's very much like the Adrian Hauser mold.
Yeah, I just feel like I jinxed the walks thing. Uh, so apologies. Um, yeah, on the mound for the Yankees was Carlos Rodon, who everyone was calling him a bust after the injury-filled year one in the Bronx, and he has responded by being healthy and very good to start this season. Yankees bats get going in the first. Alex Verdugo's home run with Anthony Volpe and Juan Soto on makes it 3-0. Rhys Hoskins responds in the bottom of the first and makes it 3-1. Uh, Yankees get 3 more runs in the third, another run in the fifth, an Aaron Judge homer that scores 2 runs in the sixth. Anthony Rizzo follows that with another 2-run homer. It's 11-1 in the sixth. 5 innings, 8 hits, 7 runs, 6 earned, 3 walks, 5 strikeouts for Ross. So yeah, like just kind of early homer sets the game off on the wrong foot, and it kind of spirals from there. Thiago Vieira pitches an inning, 4 hits, 4 runs. They're all earned, 2 walks, a strikeout. Jansen Junk comes in for an inning. Owen Miller throws 2 innings, 5 hits, 4 runs, all earned, 1 walk, and a homer allowed. The homer was to Giancarlo Stanton, I believe. That would made it 15-1 in the ninth. Gary Sanchez doubles home Jake Bowers in the ninth, makes it 15-2. Joey Ortiz, another positive contribution, doubles to score Gary Sanchez. 15-3 loss. Carlos Rodon, 6 innings pitched, 2 hits, just the 1 earned run on Hoskins homer, 8 strikeouts. Luke Weaver provides 2 innings of relief, and then Jose Trevino. So they got some position player pitching as well. Brewers lose 15-3, and it was somehow not the least fun game of the series.
Yeah, because I think you're gonna get games like this at some points, right? Brewers have been on the other side of I think 1 to 2 games like that already this year. And you just kind of shrug your shoulders and you're like, it's a long season. You're gonna get days that just end up a complete mismatch where you're off, they're on, and it gets really ugly. What happened in game three, though, it's a different story. The Yankees may have scored 15 runs in both games. Um, they came about in very, very different fashions. They were very, very different games.
Here we are to the game. Um, Yankees throwing out Marcus Stroman on the mound against Tobias Myers in the final game of the series. And the Yankees did what they did in every game in the series, which is they hit a first inning homer. This one coming off the bat of Aaron Judge in the fifth. Anthony Volpe homered as well to make it 4-0 Yankees. Tobias Myers, 5 innings, 5 hits, 4 runs. They were all earned, no walks, 5 strikeouts, the 2 homers allowed. In that fifth inning, Yankees really attacking early in counts when he would throw that fastball or that cutter, and it paid off as they got guys on, and then Volpe makes them pay with the homer. But another really impressive performance from Myers, and one that I think he can build on and maybe learn a little bit of something about maybe pitch sequencing once it seems that a team has picked up on something and is kind of ambushing him in that inning. But yeah, mostly good stuff from Myers.
What do you think of the pitch count, Jink? That's just they felt like okay, it's been figured out for now, and he's still quite inexperienced, and let's not push our luck here. So let's take what's still a pretty good outing and regroup from there. Is that your reading that?
That's what I assumed Pat was going with there. Um, Maybe could have stretched him out another inning, but at that point, with a pretty rested bullpen, I don't really have a problem with
Yeah, that's fair.
him making that move. Um, what I do have a problem with is umpiring, but we'll get there. In the fifth, you and I having private conversation about this game, it was just like so obvious that Marcus Stroman did not have it, and if they were able to get to him, the floodgates would kind of open, and That's what happened. Willie Damas doubled home. Sal Frelick in the fifth made it 4-1. Then Jake Bowers crushes a 3-run homer the next at bat to make it 4-4. And then things would go to hell. In the sixth inning, Aaron Judge on first base, ground ball. I think what was to Bryce Terang, was it? Let's see. Sorry, let me pull up my notes. Apologies, everyone. I want to get this right because this was an absolute
that
travesty.
That part is, yeah, okay.
I just want to get it. I know you got places to be. I apologize. Yeah. So Alex Verdugo at the plate, Aaron Judge at first base, ground ball to Bryce Strang at second, I believe, flips it to Willie Adames, turn double play. Aaron Judge sliding into second, raises his hand, because you know how you slide and you raise your hand like you're on a roller coaster, which is a normal human reaction. Ball hits Aaron Judge's hand. So Judge is out because of the force out there. Pat Murphy comes into the field talking to the umpires, and they clearly, I guess, deemed it not to be intentional. So the runner at first is not called out. 1 out in the inning. And then pop up next batter, and then the floodgates open. Yankees score 7 runs. Umpires like having a crazy strike zone to start the inning, giving Judge a massive strike zone. So he was put on. The home plate umpire starts like mocking Abner Uribe to a degree at a certain point. Like just the most embarrassing stuff I've ever seen on a baseball field. The state of umpiring right now is terrible. Aaron Boone, the manager of the other team in this game, got thrown out of a game for something a fan said. These guys have just completely lost the plot and have zero accountability for the actions that they do on the field. And this one was so clear. He raises his hand as Willie Adames is throwing a baseball. What other way can you read that other than he was intentionally trying to break up the double play and it should be called interference? What are we doing here?
Owning a small business can be overwhelming. How can your business stand out and connect with customers? Easy. Get Constant Contact. There's so many places to reach customers. Email, text messages, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, live events, the list goes on. How are you, as the business owner, expected to own all of those channels? That's where Constant Contact comes in to help. With Constant Contact, you'll reach new audiences, grow your customer list, and communicate more effectively to sell more, raise more, and fast-track growth. I use this to grow my email list, and you should too. So get going and start growing your business today with a free trial at ConstantContact.com. Just go to ConstantContact.com right now. Constant Contact, helping the small stand tall. ConstantContact.com.
You ready?
Showtime.
On May 3rd, summer starts with The Fall Guy.
Let's do it later.
Let's drink a spicy margarita.
Make some bad decisions.
Yes!
Audiences are falling in love with the most entertaining film of the year.
Fall Guy.
Fall Guy?
Fall guy.
That's what the poster said.
See Ryan Gosling and Emily Blunt in the movie critics say exists to make you happy.
Trying to make it out?
Nope.
Because I don't either. It's not what I'm into right now.
What are you into?
Talking.
Yeah.
The Fall Guy. Only in theaters May 3rd. Rated PG-13.
I mean, what way does it have to be read? It's not. How does intent matter? This is not, my football, your soccer. This is not a penalty situation where you have to interpret, was there intent? Is that if a player running from first base to second base is going to prevent the out being made at first, what does it matter if there's intent there or not? This is not based on, I saw some weird idiot fans who really just want to troll Brewer fans and bring us right all the way back to events that you were present for involving Rhys Hoskins and slides. That's a different type of scenario where we're talking about interference or not interference and what that means than ball is in the air, ball is on the way, ball is going to make it to first base and you've got an out. And, one of the tallest, if not the tallest players in all of baseball, well, probably not the tallest. There's some really tall pitchers. You think I'm right on that? I think even the McGills, I guess, are close. But that's beside the point. One of the tallest players in all of baseball sliding with his arm fully extended out to block it. I mean, we can trash the umpires for it, and we are, and we will, and they deserve it. I also how that's not automatically triggering reviews of some sort is a nonsense. Any kind of interference where, you know, an offensive player's hand is going to change the direction of a throw, that should be triggering a review in that scenario, should it not? Like, I don't, what's ambiguous about that? And I don't know, then are they going to have to actually look closer to and work something out? Because what happened here, and it is fueled by the ineptitude of the umpires, basically just encourages it. It's like, hey, you might as well just put your hand out there because if you get away with it, and you might with some of these umpires, well, then it's just like it's a free hit. It's absolutely mind-boggling. I just, I was so stunned at how Annie and I really, I like. I'm not going to criticize the Brewers. Just the Brewers took it too well. They should have been like riding out there. They should have been absolutely up in arms. Pat Murphy took his explanation and kind of just strolled off. Now, of course, at that moment, they're all thinking, well, look, maybe we'll get out of the inning and this will be fine. Which, of course, is not what happens. What happens is the Brewers go on to give up 7 runs. 7 runs. A 5-all game goes on, or was it 4-4 at that point?
4-4, yeah.
4-4. It goes on to be an 11-4 game the next time the Brewers are up to hit. It's completely and utterly turned on its head. We're not even mentioning there, Abner Uribe got the outs. He got the outs. He found the corner with a pitch which should have had him out of there, allowing just 1 run, I believe it would have been 5-4 at that point, and that was called a ball, which kept the inning going, and it fell apart from there. So really, the Brewers, they got what, 5 outs in that inning, and yeah, 7 runs and 5 outs.
I've got an update. And it's pretty surprising. The update. Crew chief Andy Fletcher said they missed the call on Judge's slide, per Kurt Hogue. On the field, we got together and did the best we could to come up with a correct answer. After looking at it on replay, it appears that the call was missed. It was an unnatural part of his slide. That's why that should have been reviewable. Like, to your point.
Also, they all missed that. They missed Willie Adamas's throw just dropping out of the air.
They
Like,
missed the center of the action of the play, apparently, Adam.
there are enough of you out there. Like, what the hell is going on? I mean, this could just be nothing, but we don't know at this point in the season what one game could mean by the time it's all over. It's a complete and utter shambles. Like, I don't know where the integrity of the game is when something like that can happen, and it's just like, yeah, we can't review that. Like, what is I know this is an ongoing conversation we have across all sports. It's everyone hates replay, everyone hates slowing down the game, everyone. Well, what is the point of having any of it if then you have situations like this where there's like red tape stopping just things that are obviously wrong from being reviewed? It's absurd. Completely and utterly absurd. Mark Atanasio should be taking out a leaf out of the Nottingham Forest owners book for anyone who follows the Premier League, and getting the keys to the social media accounts to let the feelings be voiced. It would probably get him fined, which means he definitely won't do that. But this is as egregious as it gets. I asked it at the start, but can you remember in all your years of watching baseball? Can you remember too many any instances of a play like that? Not that there's contact made or not that, but I mean that is swatted down. Like, that is a rejection. The Bucks could possibly do with, some Aaron Judge like play out there in game 4. I was stunned. Is it something you've seen before? Can you think of any examples?
Not off the top of my head, and especially not like when they got it wrong. I'm pretty sure in the what I believe was the 2004 ALCS, when Alex Rodriguez slapped Bronson Arroyo's glove, I'm pretty sure they got together on the field and eventually got that right. So I'm having a tough time recalling like a specific example of that where like it was just so clear to everyone in the moment and they just completely botched it. I mean, thanks for saying um that you got it wrong, Andy, because all the fans of other teams I saw on Twitter going on about it, saying it was the right call, can miss me with that. You now know it was the wrong call. I'm reading again from Kurt Hoag's
They have
official
to, just
rulebook
like
ruling.
Yankees, Cubs, and Cardinals fans, because I don't think like any baseball fan is seeing that and being like, sure, it's a good thing that, calls like that are getting missed and costing teams. That could be my team one day.
Quote, if in the judgment of the umpire, a base runner willfully and deliberately interferes with a batted ball, or a fielder in the act of fielding a batted ball with the obvious intent to break up a double play, that the ball is dead, batter would be out too, is what Kurt tweeted. And my last comment on this is like, if your judgment and common sense reaction to watching that happen on a baseball field is that the double play should not, if you believe anything other than double play is the call on that, you're a moron. You're a moron. You're an idiot. Shouldn't be allowed to watch baseball. If you think
I
what
don't think
Aaron Judge,
I don't think anyone really thinks it. I mean, you might have Yankee fans saying it. You might have, fans of rival teams to the Brewers saying it. How can anyone think that that's not a double play? It's the simplest of double plays if he doesn't get his hand in the way. Like, it's just not even up for debate. It's being turned easily.
I can't say much more.
Don't take the bait. They wanna get you angry and arguing about whether or not it's a double play. Of course it's a double play. The only thing worth the anger here is the absolute shambles that is the decision making process.
I'm not going to speak any further because I don't want to name names.
What is the point of centralized, officiating
Replay.
hubs
Yeah.
to review things? If when a situation like that happens, someone doesn't just say in someone's ear, yeah, we're just gonna step in here because you've missed something that is so egregious. It's gonna shame all of you guys. It's gonna shame our profession. It's gonna shame the sport. People are gonna be talking about it. It's gonna be all over the internet. What is the point of that? How does that benefit anyone? Like, if it's not just because that one is as simple as when they're trying to work it out and replays are playing, someone just has to, I don't know, pick up the phone, tap into the headset. I don't know what kind of system they've got going on there, Andrew. But it's a very simple, guys, you've missed something just mind-blowingly straightforward. We need to fix this for the credibility of all of us. And the fact that you have all of this in place, and then you have these scenarios where, we can't trigger it there. I mean, you see it in all sports. You see it in the NBA. You see it in, again, football for me, soccer for you. I just feel like in baseball, though, when something is being reviewed and where the umpires are convening and talking about it, it's even simpler. They're trying to work it out. So someone could see it. It's just like, this is not the missing a strike, right? It's not Abner Uribe's strike being called a ball, which, in its own right, maybe is even more um, consequential in the game at that point. You could have got out there 5-4, the game's still alive. It's just kind of compounding at that point. But they're the things we accept, right? He had a pitch on the corner. It's a marginal call. It's tough to see with a human eye. We know what we're dealing with in terms of umpires. I think we can all grumble about that, be disappointed, but move on. This is just entirely different. I mean, this is ultimately it's cheating, but I don't want to suggest that Aaron Judge would ever have thought he would get away with it. So did he even realize he was cheating at the moment? No, probably not, because he did something so dumb that I'm sure his only assumption was going to be it was going to turn into a double play. Guess what? It didn't. Great job, Aaron Judge. I mean, you turned the game on its head. You transformed things for your team. It wasn't your first inning home run that really made the impact. It was your giant like oven made hand in that moment.
I can only imagine how stoked John Fisher is to watch Aaron Judge swat baseballs like he's the Dikembe Mutombo in Sacramento. He's probably so stoked about that. Um, yeah, Abner Uribe and Elvis Peguero were the ones that took the brunt of the damage from that debacle. Jansen Junk eats 2 innings, and then Jake Bauers, scoreless ninth. Couple of walks and a hit, doesn't matter. Jake gets the job done. Brewers lose 15-5. They would get one more run after that on a Blake Perkins bases loaded walk. But I don't think anybody listening to this podcast wants me to recap every other run the Yankees scored in this game. So I'm going to make a judgment call at them and say, thus concludes our Yankee series recap.
I'll just point out that Jake Bauers ended up pitching with some of the nastiest stuff I've ever seen, but I don't mean nasty in the way that we would usually describe stuff. This is whatever like Abner Uribe got. This is the opposite. I'm talking 39 miles per hour, 4 or 5 feet above the zone. Just spectacular. And yet, he didn't give up a run. So, shout out Jake Bauers.
Yeah, shout out Jake Bauers. I want to not let it get lost in this. He's a guy that struggled at the plate. He's striking out a lot. He did go 3 for 5 in this game and hit that big 3-run homer. So, good for Jake. Even if, don't think we'll be bringing him in any high leverage spots at him, but I've been wrong before. Master Brewer leaderboard after 27 games for this series. Joey Ortiz gets a pair of beers. Willie Adames gets a beer. Jake Bauers gets a beer. And Jared Koenig gets a beer. Leaderboard through 27 games. William Contreras with 10. Bryce Trang and Willie Adames with 7. Admiral Uribe, Brian Hudson, Joey Ortiz with 6. Christian Yelich and Yoel Payamps with 5. Jackson Chorio, Colin Ray, Reese Hoskins, Elvis Figueroa with 4. Sal Frelick, Blake Perkins, Freddie Peralta, Hobie Milner, Bryce Wilson, Joe Ross, Thiago Vieira with 3. Oliver Dunn, Gary Sanchez, Trevor McGill, Jake Bauers, Jared Koenig with 2. And JB Bukowskis, Joey Weimer, Owen Miller, Tobias Myers with 1. Couple guys on the borderline like Gary Sanchez and William Contreras, but light series on beers when you lose back-to-back games 15-3 and 15-5.
Yeah, I mean it's pretty simple. I think maybe the most unlucky Brian Hudson, but he did allow 2 walks, only pitched an inning. I mean, goes scoreless, but also he's got a like 0.63 ERA, so we've got a high bar for you now, Brian Hudson. You're not going to get it for 2 walks. But yeah, just a very strange series. The first series win the Yankees have ever had in the stadium. Did you hear that on the broadcast?
I did not. That's something.
The first Yankees win over the Brewers since 2011. In terms of yesterday, or I should say game 2 when we're talking about this, they hadn't beaten the Yankees. I can assume that's in Milwaukee. I'd forgotten that part of it. But yeah, I know up until recently, it wasn't like those two teams are seeing each other all the time, but the Yankees are the Yankees after all. So a little bit surprising on those fronts.
Wow. What a stat. The Brewers will stay home to face the Tampa Bay Rays, who are kind of going through it, I think, if I remember seeing that update on the scoreboard during today's game. Yeah, they're 13-6.
They lost to the White Sox.
Yeah, 13-16. Just got swept by the White Sox, and we know how bad things were going for the White Sox. So they're struggling, and I think the Brewers need to take advantage of it because that's what you do in a baseball season. Monday, April 29th, 6:40 Central start. Bryce Wilson on the mound against Ryan Pepio. Next up, Tuesday, April 30th, Freddie Peralta will take the mound at 6:40 Central Time, looking to bounce back against Tyler Alexander. And then Wednesday, May 1st, 12:10 Central start, Colin Ray against Zach Eflin. Off day Friday before heading to Chicago to face the Cubs and Craig Counsell. So, yeah, Brewers are 17-10. Still in first place in the National League Central as we record this. The Cubs are playing Sunday Night Baseball against the Red Sox in about an hour. But yeah, tough way to go out, especially with the debacle in Game 3.
Really, really tough. Let's hope it picks back up. Let's hope the Rays don't find something after losing to the White Sox. If they can just continue on that kind of form, get the Brewers completely back on track and set us up for the first meeting with the Chicago Cubs of the season. That'll be exciting. To make sure you don't miss Any of those pods coming up, any pod throughout the season, subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. That's Cruising for a Brewsing. You should also check out the rest of the GSPN shows. The Eurostep Podcast Network for all things Milwaukee Bucks. By the time you're listening to this, the Bucks may well be 3-1 down. Maybe Chris Middleton has just, sealed his spot in Bucks history at an even higher level than ever before. And they're at 2-2 as he's, scored 70 points to single-handedly will them to a tied series. Who can say? What I do know is all the reaction to that game will be on the Eurostep Podcast Network feed. For all things Green Bay Packers and for continued reaction to the Packers draft picks in recent days, Numac and Jordan Tresky have you covered over on Talk of the Tundra. And for movies, pop culture, and all of that kind of stuff, our most recent episode was on Civil War. Got that right, haven't I?
Yep, you did.
I was just like, did we do something else? Did I forget? Who could say? Our next episode will be on Luca Guadagnino's Challengers. Check out Make Time for This. That's more from Andrew and I as we talk movies. As always, thanks so much to all of you for listening. No thanks to Major League Baseball and their umpires and their rules and regulations when it comes to review. But of course, thanks to you, Andrew.
Thanks as always, Adam.